What's up, everybody? I'm Modus Community Manager Luke Croft, and that beautiful opening cinematic you just saw was for our upcoming Colombian-inspired love letter to JRPGs, Cris Tales, and I am super excited because today I am joined by the creator of Cris Tales, founder of Dreams Uncorporated, and co-founder of Sick, Carlos Rich Silva. Carlos, thanks for joining me today.
Hello, Luke, and I'm so happy to be sharing this with the people today, with our fans, with everyone around the world that's expecting the game, that's so hyped about the game. We're extremely excited. We have worked so hard on this game, and we're just so close. It's really exciting and, a little scary.
I'm sure, because let's see, it was E3 2019 that the reveal trailer came out and the world was introduced to Cris Tales. So that was 2 years ago. How long has Cris Tales been in the pipeline?
I would say like even a year before we were working as a team, working on pre-sales, working on the details, on the trailer, on everything, getting ready, the demo for people to test it out. But even before that, we had been working on it for around even 2 more years. With an original prototype that had some original ideas. Then we improved it to be able to show it a little bit more to some private meetings. We then met Modus, of course, and the rest is history.
Awesome. Well, 5 years in the making, and we're down to the very last month until release. I do want to get into that here in just a second, but we're here as a part of the Steam Next Fest. And the whole point of this is to showcase demos of games that are coming up soon on Steam. And so there may be some people watching who don't know anything about Cris Tales beyond what they maybe just saw in that cinematic. So just kind of give me a little overview of what Cris Tales is for people who may not know about the game, which if they don't know about it, where they've been? It's been 2 years, guys.
Yeah. So what can I tell you about Cris Tales? Well, it is definitely a love letter to classical JRPGs. So if you love RPGs, particularly the ones that were done in Japan, the real classical ones like Chrono Trigger, definitely Final Fantasy VI, my all-time favorite game, Super Mario RPG, and a lot of these really great RPGs that shaped how we perceive these types of games. That is what we were trying to achieve with Cris Tales. But it's not only an homage to these games, but it's also our vision, that it's not only shaped by how we as Colombian developers saw those games and experimented them, but it's also what we want to give to the genre. We actually started out the game, the main mechanic, when I came up with it, I didn't think of it as an RPG, to be honest. So I actually started it as this idea of just seeing three timelines in the same screen. That idea was really interesting to me. So we were kind of figuring out how to give it shape. So with the Sick Kid, with Sebas, and with Yad, we came up with this interesting first prototype where you just walked around. It was just like sort of an adventure game, but we really wanted to give it a frame that would make it justice, a frame that would allow us to explore the mechanic even more. So with that in mind, I said, okay, do you remember those fights in these old JRPGs, turn-based RPGs, where you had these pincer attacks attacking you from the left and from the right at the same time? So how about if we do that, but in turn-based battles? So you fight to the right and you fight to the left. And with the crystals coming up from both sides, then you can see that we can pull this off and we can explore this mechanic a lot more. So it is both homage to those classical JRPGs, but it's also an innovation in the JRPG genre. Much of like you've seen in games such as Bravely Default, which we really like, or games such as Persona, which have done great job introducing new people to the genre, or even revolutionizing within their own territory. So we wanted to do something like that as well. So it's both what we want to say to those great developers that inspire us to create this, and it's also showing the people that will create the new RPGs how is it that we perceive these sort of games and how we would like to innovate in this.
Yeah, and I love hearing that because I think it's really difficult when you have such strong inspirations, right? There's a rich history of JRPGs that are out there, and I think it's difficult sometimes to want to take risks because there are so many fans of those classic JRPGs who expect certain things, and I think Chris Tales is going to deliver on all of those things that classic JRPG fans are expecting out of a title, but there's so many other things that are unique about it, and so it's awesome to hear you talking about it. I love hearing your passion, and anytime I talk to anybody on your team, the passion that they have for this project just bleeds through. So I want to ask, we're a little over a month away, like a month and 2 days away from the launch on July 20th. Knowing that this project has been in the works for 5 years and probably the seed of the idea even before that. How are you feeling personally? We'll start there, and then how's the team feeling about this finally being in the hands of people in the public?
Really happy to be able to share this with the general audience, but it's also a little scary because there's a lot of hype. We never expected the hype to be so high. We never expected so many people to be loving this game, such as they have shown us. So it is a little scary to meet all of those expectations. I think in a way it's impossible to meet everyone's expectations, but at least we hope that a lot of what we have done, it's interesting enough so that it at least makes you happy. It makes you spend a really good time. It makes you, feel that you have experienced something that you really wanted or that you really, in a way, needed. Something that you mentioned actually is that there are a lot of expectations and it is hard to take risks. But for us personally, and for me personally, we've experimented with creative mechanics a lot. With my previous company, Below the Game, we worked on this game called Heinrich, which is also a very experimental game, which Chris Sales also is with, the time crystals and seeing, the timelines and all of this. This is very different, and we like that. We like to try out new stuff. So actually, in a way, putting this frame of JRPGs that we are so familiarized with, that the whole team is familiarized with, it was in a sort of way easier for us because we had a lot of examples for things that we wanted to do, for things that we wanted to include in the game, and it was easier to talk, within ourselves to say, hey, how about this that this game did? What if we do it this way? Hey, how about this? So it's putting examples in game development when you're creating something unique. It's actually really helpful for the communication internally.
And the game is obviously set in a fantasy world, but you guys are a Colombian-based studio, and the game is rich with Colombian influence, right? And so I know we've done some social beats and some blogs about some of the Colombian inspiration that's found its way into the game. But you want to speak a little bit to how you've taken your home place, your heritage, and baked it right into this, right into Cris Tales?
Of course, like for us, when we were picturing these ideas, when Sebas was drawing this little Colombian Disney princess, when Jadir was coming up with this really interesting concept of watching everything in 3D, but this 3D world, but everything looked 2D. We really wanted to highlight who we were. So we came up with this concept. I like to call it endemic fantasy, where the fantasy it's based on everyday things from our Colombian culture or Colombian history or Colombian lifestyle. So starting with Matias, who is based on the real golden frog, one of the most poisonous frogs in the world, that is, of course, from Colombia. We have implemented a lot of things that we see every day in our lives in Colombia. There are a lot of cities, for instance, that have some problems with the sewer system. So we see some floodings within the city, and we wanted to include that within these imaginary cities that we created within Crystals. So you will see some floodings that are inspired by real floodings in the country. So there are things that will, be mechanically interesting for you to see, and they will have a clear inspiration in things that we have seen personally. There are other stuff like the architecture, like the colors, like real places that I think we're actually going to show people for the first time publicly here. So it's going to be really interesting to see how many people can actually spot these things. We wanted to reverse the idea of magical realism that basically takes these fantasy and magical concepts and makes them part of your everyday life, and taking these everyday life happenings and turning them into this fantasy world.
That's awesome. I love it, and I'm interested to see how much people pick up on. And I know just from some of the comparison shots that I saw, just the way that the love of where you come from bleeds through in the game is great to see. And so, what do you say we show off some of the game? We can look at this awesome art style, and you can kind of tell us a little bit about what we're looking at. And I want to start with the gorgeous opening cinematic that we opened with.
Of course. Let's go with it.
So we revealed this yesterday or 2 days ago with GameSpot. And so kind of just walk us through, I know we've seen some of this footage before, but can you walk us through a little bit of what we're seeing in the cinematic trailer, and also how this is setting up the player for the world that they're about to step into?
Of course. So be warned, because there's gonna be some really light spoilers here. Because if you're here, it's because you want to know a lot more about the game. But just be aware of that. We're not going to spoil anything from the story, of course. Just contextual stuff. So you just saw Matthias. He was jumping around. He's the companion of Cris Bell and sort of his mentor in a sort of way. But she, of course, has this great mentor in time magic. That's Wilhelm. You meet him in the very first hour of the game, and you can actually see his interactions in the demo that we released publicly in most platforms. So you can see here a lot of the other characters that we have revealed in some character trailers, such as JKR. He's this android who's looking for a purpose. He wonders what the purpose in his life is. We announced this in the character trailer, so it's not really a spoiler. You can see the Time Empress there, who's the main antagonist of the game. You can see Saz there, who's another one of your allies. You can see Karihudo, who's another one of the antagonists, and the Volcano Sisters, who are like a super fun favorite that are part of the antagonist group. You can see here Cris Bell, how she is doing these sort of strange things with the water. We're really happy to be releasing on July 20th, because it is one of the most important days in talking as a Colombian, because it is sort of an Independence Day for us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some significance there with the release date as well.
Yes.
So I think the first thing we always hear when we show Cris Tales to anybody is, wow, that art is beautiful. And you've mentioned Sebas a couple times, who I know has been crucial in the creation of Cris Tales and all of the visuals that we're seeing here. Can you talk a little bit about the conversations that you and Sebas had in the early phases when you were kind of deciding on a direction for Cris Tales' aesthetic?
Yes, of course. So, mainly the aesthetics belong to Sebastián Villarreal, who's the art director of the game. And he really wanted to create his own art style based on, a lot of very different influences, such as, Samurai Jack, Monster House of Imaginary Friends. and mix that with a little bit of anime that we, of course, have a lot of influence from. Japan, of course, has influenced us a lot, but definitely Disney as well. So the main concept, as I mentioned before, it's he was wondering how would a Disney princess look if she was Colombian, and how would a castle like this princess's castles look if they were in Colombia. So we looked at these really interesting different places, and this cathedral in Nariño, that's a real place in Colombia, has this really gothic cathedral called the Lajas Cathedral. So he came up with this idea and to turning it into like a fantasy sort of cathedral, and we established this whole. I wrote a story, so I came up with this whole idea of a religion around the cathedrals and creating this faith around the lady. So we created our own religion there. So we kind of created our own mythos, our own faith around these whole concepts. So it's kind of like a continuous back and forth between creating some art and creating some story that influences the art that's coming up or influences the story that's coming up. So the same thing happened, for instance, with the Volcano Sisters. We originally had a different sort of villain for that part, but when the concept of the Volcano Sisters came to be, a whole section of the game, of later parts of the game, changed to highlight those characters a lot more. So those conversations happen a lot, during development. You have this idea of, okay, this is how it should look, this is how it should work, but eventually you come up with a better solution. You say, okay, so this would feel a lot better, and we made them appear a lot more and have a lot more protagonism. So it's also because of the reception of the people. When we released the original demo and saw that people loved the Volcano Sisters so much, we knew we had to give them a lot more highlight than they had. They were pretty much the same type of characters. I wanted to write them with this dual concept of, one being more mature and one being more emotional and more aggressive. So it's really interesting to see that coming to life with both the voiceover, both the writing that I work with so many writers, and of course the art that created those characters, and that interaction between all those different parts. It's wonderful because you feel like you're giving birth to actual living things.
You mentioned how some of the community reception of certain elements of the game kind of dictated the way that you approach those things in sections of the game further down the line. Can you talk to me a little bit about how it's felt to see the community that Cris Tales has attracted just in the lead up to its release next month?
Yes, of course. The Discord channel, the YouTube comments, the Twitter comments, Facebook comments, like this whole social media interaction has allowed us to see in real time how people have been receiving the game, seeing how many views the trailers have, how many people played the original demo, has definitely hyped us a lot. So there were certain things that we saw that the game was doing really well, so we wanted to highlight them a lot more, such as the characters and stuff like that. But we also wanted to, diminish the things that people were not receiving very well. Like, not removing any part of the game per se, but like trying to communicate better things that we wanted to do. So we also allowed, we did an update on the original demo that allowed you to play with Wilhelm, the nature mage, in the Colosseum. So that also allowed us to see how people played the Colosseum, how was the battle system shaping up, and how were people receiving it. It was amazing, and I am such an avid consumer how people is receiving the game in general. that I just enjoy watching streamers, even if they have a few views. I am one of those views because I really want to see how people receive the game in Spanish, in English. I wish I could understand a lot more languages so I could see all of the streams that people put up around the world. But if they do have some subtitles, I will be there watching it, learning from it, seeing what they complain about. There were even instances where the community, where some people in the Discord channel mentioned stuff to us that they wanted to see what was going to happen. Of course, we didn't spoil anything or anything like that, but they were wondering, hey, how about this? Did you work on this, or is this going to evolve? Of course, we don't give like straight up answers, but it's interesting to see how people ask us what are the possibilities, and that question, just that question, makes us wonder if we can do better, if we can communicate it more straightforward, if we can communicate it in a way that's better received by the general public.
Yeah. From the community side of things, I also just love seeing anytime we release an asset, the little the just little minute details that the community picks up on and just runs with, and the fan theories that they create. And it's like, we just have a demo and some trailers out now. It's going to be great to see how that conversation evolves once the full experience is available to them.
Oh God, there's people that see and evaluate and analyze, over super analyze every little frame that we release to the public. So it is a little scary because they will point out every single thing that they see. So hey, this is a mistake. Hey, this is, I don't understand this, or something like that. Fortunately, it's not been the case a lot. So it's mostly been praised. There are some people that complain, of course. There are things that we can improve, but it's so amazing to see the excitement and the interaction that a lot of the people have in the community to say, hey, we saw this and this looks super interesting. We saw this other thing. They saw Paulina in this trailer, this really big statue, and they were wondering so much about what was going on. We even shared some comments about real statues in the place that most of the people is living in, Bucaramanga, Santander. So there's like a huge statue there as well. So they were pointing out similarities between the reality and the world that we were creating, the endemic fantasy that we were mentioning before. But it's like this back and forth between them that I really get excited about.
Yeah. Well, what do you say we give them some more footage to comb through and see what they can pick up on? And because we did over the last couple of weeks, we've had some preview coverage go out with different outlets. They were provided with 17 minutes of gameplay. A little bit of it's from the demo, but a big chunk of it is stuff that hasn't been seen. We get to see some new kingdoms, and so I thought it'd be cool for me and you to sit down and you just kind of tell us some of the stuff that we're seeing, and I've got some questions if we want to explore it a little further. How's that sound?
Let's go, Luke.
All right, so you guys in watching, if you're watching the VOD of this, you need to get your mouse pointer finger ready to hit the pause button to evaluate the frames, because we're just starting this and going straight through. All right, so let's do it. Let's pull this up. So this first thing that we're going to see is going to be familiar to people because it's from the demo, right? Where you are making a decision about who to inform about the blight that may be impacting them in the future, and who you're going to help out. So one of the cool things that we keep talking about with Cris Tales is how your decisions don't just make an impact on what you may see in the game in the future, but also it makes an impact on what you're seeing in real time. So can you talk to us a little bit about those mechanics of decision making and seeing it, either how it impacts the past or the future?
Yes, of course. So to me, as the lead narrative designer and the lead designer, I always have needed to have something to rely on to tell the story, to communicate the mechanics. So the game has this central philosophy where everything is based upon learn from the past, act in the present, create your own future. With that philosophy, we have created a lot of art, a lot of mechanics, a lot of interactions, a lot of the story. And the main mechanics of the game communicate that. So that's why Chris Bell can't go either to the past or to the future. It's mainly Matthias, the one that does that. The past is there for you to learn from it. Such as in real life, you can learn about the past, you can read about it, you can investigate on it. So you learn from that. You learn from the experience that other people or you yourself have had. And in the present, you can act with that knowledge. That is what we want to communicate to people. And in the future, you can see that your actions have consequences and you can see how they change in real time. That is like the only thing that we probably, can't do in real life. And it's seeing the consequences of the choices that we make today. And that is the super interesting part that I love about Chris Sales, is giving you that possibility. The knowledge and the assurement that everything that you do today has an impact on the future. And hopefully when people play this game, people will come out of it saying, okay, I know that everything that I do today will have an impact tomorrow. So I will try to be my best version today so that tomorrow better things will come.
Mm-hmm. So we're seeing a new location here, the Walled City. What can you tell us about this?
Yeah, so this is St. Clarity. St. Clarity is this whole coastal city based on real coastal cities in Colombia. It's not exactly based on one particular city, but there are several. And we have a city in Colombia that people, within that city, within Cartagena, there is a place called the Walled District. So it was like a really old fortress that was used to fight off the Spaniards. So it is part of our architecture. It is part of our history. A lot of the people in the team had actually visited the Walled City. So you can see the really old fortress. You can see the really old, like even some canyons. Mm-hmm. So it was super interesting to create, to draw this, to write this, to interact with all of this. So you can even see some things here. I'm not going to spoil you, but look at both the past and the future. Right now, we are seeing the sewers because it is definitely not a JRPG if you do not have an obligatory sewer dungeon. So, we will have a sewer dungeon. That is.
I gotta ask, because obviously the art in this is always a connection with the audience and it's gorgeous. How on earth did your team manage to make sewers, of all things, as beautiful as you guys made it?
I have no idea. The real talent here is Sebas and the whole team of artists that he's directing. They're incredible people, incredible artists. All of them. Juanito, Lili, Tora, Miguel, Diego, Adrian, like everyone that has worked on this project on the art side, it's absolutely amazing. It's absolutely incredible. They have done an amazing job, doing all of this. So we're just, I'm just as amazed as you are. Like I just try to provide with the excuse, within the story for them to express themselves artistically. So, I give them the raw material for them to think about, and they just come up with these incredible views all over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and if the art is something that the viewers appreciate about it, I'll use this opportunity to plug our collector's edition for Cris Tales, because it includes a 60-page art book that you can you're going to appreciate it as you play the game, but there's tons of custom artwork to check out in that. If you're interested, store.maximumgames.com. You can pre-order that now, shipping to North America, South America now, with Europe coming in the future. So just a quick little plug there, Carlos.
One thing that I do want to highlight also is that the artists are absolutely amazing, but this wouldn't be possible without the help of all of the dreamers that are working on Dreams Incorporated. Because the tech artists who are not drawing, but are assembling all of these dungeons, they put in every piece of the art, and they are the ones that end up shaping the dungeons. Yadir is the one like creates the dungeons themselves, like the structure of how they look, how you navigate. So that is also really important for people to notice how they, not only how pretty they look, but how they work. And so much of the work that Alex, Luis, and so many of the tech artists, led by Yadir, have worked on this. And definitely something that I think has to be highlighted, it's how none of this would be possible without the programmers, without the team that Armando and Alvaro are leading, and how they are shaping all of this to work properly, to allow you these possibilities within the mechanics for you to understand, analyze, and actually play. Because what makes this a video game is that you can play it, that your actions have repercussions in the screen, on the images that you see on the screen. So it is really important for me to also, highlight Camilo, Jose, Ederson, the QA team that's done an amazing job, with JP, with Mario, Duan also on the programming team. So it's like everyone that has been working on this, even the administrative team, that we wouldn't been able to do this without, Jeff and Andrea. This is a labor of love from a lot of the people here in Colombia, that a lot of the people that have dreamed about making something that has an impact worldwide is creating. So, I just want people to notice the work that everyone is doing, and of course, the art should be praised because it is absolutely amazing. But the design that Hika has helped me work through all of this, the game designer that helps me every day. So I think all of that is extremely important to notice and to analyze as well.
Absolutely. We did just see a combat sequence there, and I know that there's several unique mechanics within the combat system. You've obviously got the past, present, future mechanics within combat, but there's also some real-time kind of actions that you can take to deflect or enhance your damage. Can you talk a little bit about the combat systems that are in the game?
Yes, of course. So we really wanted the combat to also feel impactful of your choices. So you can see how every enemy has a past, a present, and a future. But we didn't want to make them like Pokemon. We didn't want them to just evolve, to just be, the past is like a small version, the present is like, the intermediate, and the future is like the big one. We wanted them to have different feelings, make them feel like they are three different characters, which they are actually, because like there is one character that in the past is super small, so it's fragile, but can steal items from you, so he's super fast. In the present, he's has intermediate skills, so he can hurt you, but he's also a little bit fast. So it's like a fair challenge. Let's say your average monster, but in the future he's just slower, but this beast of a monster that can attack your whole party. So you can see how, and you can send these enemies to the past or to the future. So you might want to say, hey, I'm low on health. I want to kill these characters, faster. So let's just send them to the past, and I will risk, getting robbed. So that is a decision that you can make mid battle, or you can say, I want to perform a time trick, which is these effects that you can, let's say, poison an enemy in the present, and you send that enemy into the future. So all of the poisonous effect will take all at once. So it will do all of the damage that the poison would have done turn by turn and apply it just all at once. So you can also risk turning this normal enemy into a stronger enemy, but at the same time you will hurt him. This particular part that we are seeing right now, I'm extremely excited about, because this is also from those old RPGs, the world map. We really love the idea of this world map. And you can see how you're riding a very, very special type of transportation. I'm sure everyone saw what it was, but just, pretend to be surprised when you play within the game. And right now we are seeing Rainbow Lake, which is one of the most beautiful parts of the game. It is an incredible dungeon, and it's based on a real place in Colombia called Caño Cristales. So Caño Cristales is one of the most beautiful places in Colombia. It's like this sort of pond/lake where you can see different colors in the water. You can actually Google it. Just look Rainbow Lake. Some people call it Rainbow Lake or Five Color Lake or Caño Cristales in Colombia. You will see the images are outstanding. So it's not as hard as you might imagine to be inspired by these vistas, because Colombia, it's really a magical place. And we don't always have to talk about the usual stuff that it's being talked about when they talk about our country. We are not only, the usual elements, the usual coffee, and of course there is coffee in the game, but we're not just that. We have these really wondrous places that make you think, is this real? And you will see a lot of those places within the game that will hopefully make you want to explore the country for yourself.
I'll tell you what, Carlos, I love talking with you about this. I love hearing the passion that you have for what you've created, and it just bleeds through in hearing you talk about it. And yeah, when I first saw this footage of Rainbow Lake, it really does just kind of blow you away, right? Like, Cris Tales is beautiful inside, like from end to end, but there's something just uniquely gorgeous about this area. So as far as different kingdoms and areas, I see there's also just a ton of diversity in the way that in the kind of scenes that we're seeing here. So how important was it for you guys to create kind of a visual palette that keeps people engaged with different views, different styles, while also keeping it kind of focused in on that central vision that you guys had for the art?
I would still say, a lot of those questions, Sebas would like the best one to answer them, but I will try my best. So I can say that it's also very important for us to highlight the aspects of the story that we want to tell in a particular moment. So right now we just saw this character and this conversation about a character that it's just sitting there, with this lotus flower. That is a really important character in your party later on. And for it to be there at the center of Rainbow Lake, it is really important for you to see it there. It's really important, the position that he's in. It's really important for you to understand what the symbols of what we are putting within the game are. So that took a lot of iteration. Before he wasn't there, before he was in another pose, before he was doing something else. But we really wanted to communicate the important elements of that character, what his personality is, what his motivations are, what is his whole philosophy. So philosophy is something that you will find a lot in this game. And philosophy around time travel, around time elements. So every character will have a direct relationship with the time elements that Cris Bell has, of course, as the main protagonist, and with the color palette, with the way they dress, with the way they behave. they will interact with Cris and they will form a party that makes sense both symbolically and visually. So that is definitely a challenge. And sometimes we had to redo some stuff. We had to say, okay, so this looks great, but we want to say, no, we're going this other route. And we tried that route and it didn't work. Oh, but this character looks way too big. Oh, this character looks out of place in the party. So it is definitely, I mean, as a video game, we have these challenges that it's also like a blessing that we can, rework some stuff and improve it. So it is great to be able to do that, but it also comes with the curse that you always want to improve upon it. So you always want to work on it and make it better and make it better. But I have to say that if we did that, the main producer of the game, Sebastian Pedrosa, would kill me because he's the one in charge of actually making Cris, giving it to the hands of people the 20th of July. So,
Yeah. A couple last questions here. We just got through our 17 minutes of gameplay there, so beautiful and a ton of new stuff to see and know, but still plenty more in the full game when it comes out on July 20th that people haven't seen. I do want to ask, because the time travel element or the time mechanics within the game, right? Like, time travel is something that many games have attempted and many games have done really, really well. And there's other times where it's kind of more just like a vehicle for the story, maybe, or maybe it's just an element of the world itself. In Cris Tales, with it being such a baked-in part of what players are experiencing, right? It finds its way in the decision making, in the combat, in the way that the game is presented to you, with the past, present, and future being visible all at once. From a design perspective, just at the game level, right? How challenging was it for you guys? Because you're basically having to create 3 different sets of elements, right, based on the decisions that you're making, and those things have to change. So, can you talk a little bit about the challenges in actually making the game with that time mechanic being such a central part?
Yes. So I kind of wish we had just time travel, because time travel is, okay, you go to a different place and you can actually reuse some of the assets. But in our case, we have to change the assets so that they feel that they have evolved or that they had a past. So narratively speaking, it has been a tremendous challenge. And making that work within the design, within the mechanics, it's also been really difficult for it to all make sense. And I wish it was just 3 times. But as we've said, you can make choices within the game, depending on, if you do a side quest, if you rescue this character, if you do this other thing, you can actually decide on fates of certain characters or even whole kingdoms that will change how the whole kingdom would look in the future. So you just now you just don't have 3 versions of that kingdom, but even 4, sometimes 5, even in some crazy idealistic times, we put 6 versions of something. And in cases of some particular houses, as many as 10 different versions of that, because we just wanted to highlight that we could. And, of course, the programmers were really angry that we had to do that, that we wanted to do that. But it was worth it, and you can see those wonderful touches and that detail that we hope will make people dream about it. And we really wanted to step aside and not just use this as a story element. Okay, time travel, yes, of course. And I'm not saying we don't have time travel. I'm not saying we do either. But what I want to say is that it's so baked in the mechanic, and of course, that is a consequence. That is a consequence that I am both working, as a game designer and also on the story elements. So they have to be mixed. They have to be, working together closely, because the mechanics have to make sense. Gameplay first. So Gameplay dictates the story, dictates the characters. When you play the game, you will see why the characters. It's not just saying, hey, this character would be great or would look good or would just, be fun. No, the characters have to make sense within this frame, within this whole concept of time manipulation that we've created. So you will not just see, time travelers all over. No, you will see characters that will have a meaningful interaction with the time mechanics, and that will dictate their personality and their personal philosophy as individuals.
I hear all of what you're saying about the different time mechanics, and I keep hearing the word in my mind, replayability. The ability. So, what can players expect if they get through their first playthrough? Is there so much more to uncover on a second playthrough, making different choices?
Yes, of course. So depending on what you do, depending on the side quests that you do, depending on the people that you want to help, how you want to help them, you will see different consequences in the kingdoms that you will be in. And, of course, if you try to do absolutely everything, those meaningful choices that you had will hopefully help you reach, better endings or possibly worse, depending on the choices that you have. So, there might be a moment where you say, okay, this is what I want to see now. And you will probably get an ending that will highlight a certain part that you wanted to explore, or you can just go and explore everything and try to obtain everything the game has to offer. And we really want to reward you for that. So there's definitely a lot to see on a second playthrough, definitely a lot to decide and see the different changes that will be not only visual, but they will also be part of the story, part of how the other characters perceive you. How do they perceive themselves? Because something that's also very important that we want to talk about here, it's there is social commentary in the game. We wanted to also put part of what is happening in Colombia, what our issues are between ourselves, between our way of being, why we're the way we are. And we wanted to show that within the characters, within the NPCs, how they talk to each other, how they perceive each other. There's people that complain, there's people that just want to settle, there's people that are somewhere in between. So we hope that people want to explore all of that. So it's not just I decided this, so I will see the ending and let's say, the ending of that kingdom and that's it. But they will talk to the characters, they will talk to the different versions of the endings that they will have and try to see what they can learn from this world that we've created. Because, it's been such a challenge to create all of these NPCs because it's not common to see JRPGs with NPCs so detailed and with such personalities that they have a history, a past, a present, and a future, and different sort of futures. So let's hope that all of this work that we put into this is reflected on how the people perceive the game and how they will play it as well.
Well, Carlos, there's a month left, and I want to leave you with one last question. Is there anything for the community that's gathered around Cris Tales and the fans already that have been gained from just the demo and the footage that we've put out there? Is there a message that you want to send to them before the game launches next month?
Yes. So we are extremely excited to be sharing this with all of you. And this is a 30-hour game. And yet, yes, it is fully voice over. So we're really excited for all of you to get to meet these characters, to get to meet Chrisabel, who she is, who she will become, how she will interact and learn from Wilhelm, how she will interact with Christopher, how Christopher will grow, how all of these characters will be part of your life, hopefully, but also understand that we are a small team of developers of around 25 people here in Colombia, making this from all of our hearts to all of you out there. And we're trying to do the best we can. Just try to enjoy as much as it is possible for you. And yeah, just we're trying to send you love through this art that we're creating, and hopefully you will return a little bit of that love to the dreamers that are creating this, to the sick dreamers that are giving you these dreams from our heads to your hands.
Awesome. I am so excited for July 20th, Carlos. I'm excited for people to get their hands on it and play it, because there's, like you said, and like we've seen in the last 45 minutes here, there's been a lot of love put into this, a lot of thought put into this, and I think people who play it are going to pick up on those things. So, Carlos, I thank you for your time and your insight as we talked. And if you guys want to try Cris Tales, the demo is available right now on Steam, PlayStation, Xbox, and Switch. You can go try that out. It's a good little chunk, and there was actually an update to the demo a few months ago, adding the Coliseum so that you can play around with the combat a little bit more. So plenty to do inside of the demo before the game launches on July 20th. And with that said, it does launch July 20th. It's basically available on everything, so get your pen and your pad ready, because it's coming to Steam, PlayStation 5, PlayStation 4, Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One, Switch, Stadia, GOG, and Epic Game Store.
GOG.
All over the place. We're not N64. No N64 support, but basically everything else, right? So
I actually love that, how, in the community, within the Discord, people were asking you how, in what platforms the game is going to be released on, and someone else answered everything, and you're like, everything is mostly accurate.
Yeah, that's fairly accurate. So if whatever you own, you're going to be able to play Cris Tales on it. Basically, pre-orders are available now on all of the digital storefronts except for Steam, and on in physical retail. I mentioned this earlier, but we do have an awesome collector's edition available exclusively on the Maximum Games Store, store.maximumgames.com. Shipping is available right now to North America and South America, with shipping coming to Europe soon. I know that's something the community's been wanting as well. So you can go check the store page out to see all the stuff. There's a plush, there's an art book, there's pins, there's stickers, all kinds of stuff, and it's all just as beautiful as what we saw in the game just now. So plenty to look forward to.
Be mindful. I've even heard that there are some editions that are running out, so I don't know, just be mindful of that.
Yeah, I know in North America at least, we're getting close to the sellout point, so you guys may want to go check that out sooner rather than later. But Carlos, again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much, Luke. From all of us, Sick Dreamers, we want to give you really big hugs, and we want you to enjoy Cris Tales when it comes out next month.
Awesome. Well, I hope everybody else has a great Steam Next Fest. Play some awesome demos. Check out Cris Tales, and we'll see you next month, guys. Goodbye.